Hello everybody, Grim here. Tonight, I'm going to try something a little new, where we are going to sit down around a blazing campfire and I'm going to tell you some scary stories. So sit back, relax, and please enjoy. So, this story happened about 11 years ago. I was a senior in high school at the time, but it is the single most mind-boggling thing that I have ever experienced. It is also important to note that it happened in mid-December. I am from Iowa, and the winters here get cold at night. Like, you get stuck outside, you'll die kinda cold. Plus, the snowfall makes everything dead silent. You can hear anything and everything inside the house, even immediately outside of it. Well, me and my best friend were just hanging out in my family's walkout basement, just having a boring winter night and playing video games. We were also the only ones home. The reason it was just us is because my mother went from work straight to the bar to grab a few drinks with co-workers. So, me and my friend thought it would be a good idea to break into the family wine and live a little. As we were sitting there opening up the first bottle, I hear the door to the garage open and slam shut. I immediately go, oh shit, and start looking for places to hide the bottle. My friend says, I thought you said your mum was supposed to be out all night. She was, I replied. I then heard a few heavy stomps, and I hear my mum yell out, Meowsaboo, anyone home? I yell back up the stairs, Yep, just hanging out in the basement. I hear a few more steps move from the garage door towards the stairs and she yells again, Can you come help me with something? I need you up here. I reply back while frantically trying to find a good place to hide the wine bottle. Yep, just give me a minute. Then there was silence for about 20 seconds. Anyone down there with you? She yelled back in a more concerned, serious tone, in a voice that was slightly off my mother's. This was the first thing that told me something wasn't right. Our family never cared if anyone was over, as our house was a very open house to all family and friends, and the voice was just too wrong. Like, it sounded like my mother's, but it was missing something that I couldn't put my finger on. Weirded out, I reply, Just Galton. After I yelled that back to her, I found a good place to hide the bottle and began walking up the steps to the next level. Now, as I was walking up the stairs, I couldn't help but feel the overbearing silence of the house, and the slight electric twinge that something isn't right. When I got to the top of the steps, I looked over to where the door to the garage is, and also to the kitchen next to it, and it's black. Pitch black. All of the lights were off, and there was no moonlight shining through any windows. I walked over to the kitchen, yelling out, Mom, where are you? There was no reply, just silence and darkness. I feel the electric twinge turn into full needles, and my adrenaline kicking in to full force. I have to get out of here as fast as possible. My mother was not home. I run back down the stairs, grabbing my coat along the way. What's wrong? Colton says. My mum's not home, I reply as fast as I can, looking for my truck keys. What do you mean? You were just talking with her. I could see the confusion in his face. There's no one home. We need to leave now. I took a few steps towards the back door that opens up to the yard and Then I see my dog shaking on the couch and my cat growling behind it. I couldn't leave them. I just knew that if we left, something would happen. Are we leaving? Colton said, still confused as hell. No, I can't leave them here alone. Something is really off. I'm going to call my mom and figure it out. I pull out my phone and call my mom. She picks up immediately. Meowsaboo, what's going on? She answers. Mom, were you just home? I heard you yelling for me from the second level, and when I went up, you weren't there, I said frantically, hoping that she was playing a joke. No, I'm just leaving the bar. I wasn't feeling well. Are you okay? What do you mean you heard me? I fill her in on the whole story, and she rushes home. Colton and I stayed in the basement with the animals until she got home, but before she did, you could hear something upstairs. Not walking or sitting on things, but a pressure in the air, like a black hole was slowly moving from one room to the next, and the word that would instinctively describe it is hungry. When she got home, you could feel the thing leave as quickly as it came, like an overbearing, predatory presence had just flown away. We still have never figured out what the hell was going on, and this is just one story of many unexplainable things that have happened to us, but this is the easiest to write down, and the one I was happy to have witnessed. My mother has passed away now, and I have moved away to Arizona, but whenever I go back to Iowa and I see Colton, he still gets creeped out by what had happened. I will never truly know what happened, but I know that whatever it was that had my mother's voice, it was evil, and it was hungry. I'm a police officer, verified on r/protected serve, in the southern U.S., in a suburban department of about 100 sworn officers. I work in a college town. I've been on about 10 years now. Made sergeant 4 years ago, but at the time of this story, I was just 2 years on, working the night shift patrol. I've been lucky that not a lot has affected me mentally, anyway, during my career. I don't have kids. That's how it gets to you usually. You can build all the mental walls you want, but when you have emotional connections with your kids and see something happening to kids, the walls mean nothing. Anyway, this one stuck with me. It still makes my hair stand on end, especially when it rains. It was September, just after midnight. I got put on a call of shots fired. Now, normally these calls turn out to be either fireworks or perhaps a car backfiring, but mostly fireworks. So, unless we get multiple calls on it, or a confirmed gunman or someone confirmed wounded, we just send one unit. That night, it was me. The shots fired was reported around a college football stadium. This was during football season, so there were a bunch of really big white tents set up all around the parking lots for tailgaters. I notified dispatch that I was on scene and started rolling through the parking lots, casting out my spotlight here and there. It was raining pretty heavily and hard to see. About half the way through the lots, my spotlight illuminated the silhouette of a man sitting in a folding chair under one of those big tents. I pulled closer and lit him up, notified dispatch that I was out with one in the parking lot. His back was to me. He appeared to be hunched forward, as if his elbows were on his knees and his head was leaning forward. I walked towards him and started calling out to him. Can't remember exactly what I said, but something like, "Hey man, you okay? You heard anything strange? Can you come talk to me?" He didn't move or answer. As I drew closer, I lit him up with my flashlight. I then noticed the outline of a shotgun on the pavement next to him. Combined with him not answering and the nature of the call, it was enough for me to break leather and have dispatch hold the channel. I kept calling him as I approached, asking him to show me his hands, etc. 30 feet, 20 feet, 10 feet, my handgun, Glock, model 22. Has a Streamlight TLR-1 light on it. So, I had him lit up. 6 feet under the tent with him. 5 feet. 4 feet. I closed on him, came around to the front of him. Shotgun suicides are difficult. Often, if they put the barrel under their chin, the blast from the barrel will blow the gun out from under their chin before the shot ever hits them. There was a guy in my hometown that succeeded in a shotgun suicide, only because he did it in front of a pond. Put the barrel under his chin, pulled the trigger, only managed to blow his face off. Coroner said he probably ran around screaming through a hole that used to be his mouth before he drowned in the pond. This guy succeeded. Blew his head clean off. You do this job long enough, you notice funny little details. His elbows were indeed resting on his knees. It was as though he blew his head off, set the shotgun on the ground next to him, and then leaned forward and rested his elbows on his knees to think about what he had done. About that time, I noticed that even though I was under the tent with him, it felt like it was still raining. And then I looked up. The following is a story that took place quite a few years back now. However, it still baffles me completely, and I'd like to share it here. I am a teenager, and I've been in scouting, Boy Scouts, for nearly all of my life, and I really enjoy exploring with my friends and being trusted more as I am older now. A few years ago, me and two girls named Amy and Harriet were asked to head into the woods surrounding our campsite to find a long, straight stick suitable for carving into a point. Bear in mind that I was a lot younger back then. Harriet was older and Amy only 1 year older than myself. We had been walking in deliberately the same direction as not to get lost and memorizing the surroundings as we went, in order to find our way back easily. About 15 minutes in, we couldn't find anything to take back, so we turned around and returned to the campsite. That's when the initial panic kicked in. The trees had almost unnaturally knitted themselves together in such a way that it seemed our path was non-existent in the first place, like it had just vanished. We looked around 360 degrees and now everything looked exactly the same. Trees we could have sworn were different from one another appeared as all copies of the same tree. We kept walking in what we thought to be the correct direction whilst shouting out for help, and eventually came to a concrete path, almost like a road but very thin, separating the forest, splitting it into two. We didn't follow the road as it went the wrong direction to our campsite. On the other side of the path was more forest. However, nearby was an abandoned shack, likely used for storage or whatever else. We had no idea anything like this was out here in these woods, so we just kept walking. We eventually came to a road we didn't recognize. A woman wearing a pink and purple regatta outdoors coat walked past, and we frantically asked her for the direction to our campsite. As by now, according to our watches and Harriet's phone, we'd been walking for an hour to an hour and a half. She said she'd never seen us before, but she said there's another campsite in that direction. We followed her advice and eventually came back to our campsite. We frantically apologized for being so long and that we couldn't find anything. The leader, Ian, could see all three of us were shaken up, and he stated, confused, that we'd only been gone for roughly 25 minutes and that our free time was still going on. To this day, it baffles all three of us. Our free time was 40 minutes long, and our watches and phones had said we had been gone for hours. The forest we were lost in felt crushing and claustrophobic, like we'd entered into an area that the concept of time didn't apply to. I believe in the paranormal. However, this was unlike anything I'd ever heard or experienced before. It literally was like we'd been in a time vortex or something, and that hours in the forest were only minutes in the rest of the world. The feeling was very strange, and it stuck with me for the rest of the camp. Well, thank you for reading my story. It's a weird one, but it's true. If you would like to hear more stories from my weird life so far, then feel free to upvote and comment. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Before I sign off, I would like to just say thank you to everyone who has jumped on and supported me lately. The 200 subscribers I've reached has been a great milestone for me. I never saw myself getting near this many. So I have to thank everyone in the horror community, the people who are watching and subscribing, and those who've just come along for the ride to see one or two of my videos. If you would like to, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out. But ultimately, all that really matters is that you're safe wherever you are. And this is Grim, signing off.